This is the Shanice Lewis Show, the #1 podcast for plus-size women. With your host, the queen of curvy conversation, Shanice Lewis.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Shanice Lewis. Today is Monday, January 7th, 2019. Make sure you're following the show's social media pages on Facebook at The Shanice Lewis Show and on Instagram and Twitter at Shanice Show. You can also subscribe and listen to the show on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcasting app. Today we have a very special guest on the show, Allison McGevna, and I'll introduce you to her right after this commercial break.
It's 2019, and it is your year. Join me, Kimberly Walker, the founder of Curves Beautifully Empowered, for an inspirational event, Curves Beautifully Empowered Experience 4 in Seattle, Washington, January 19th and 20th, 2019. Prepare yourself for dynamic speakers like our inspirational keynote speaker, Marie Denee, the curvy fashionista, and watch our curvy ladies slay the runway. So, go to www.kimberlyjwalker.com for more information, and I hope to see you there. Again, that's www.kimberlyjwalker.com. Happy New Year.
All right. So my guest today is a news junkie with a passion for style and entertainment. Allison McGevna has been working in digital media for more than a decade with a specialty in fashion, film, and television. She has worked across multiple platforms and has experience in several roles, including a writer, producer, host, and style architect for major brands and personalities. Allison built her media career at some of the industry's top digital and broadcast outlets, including iOne Digital, where she was the vice president of the women's lifestyle division, overseeing content for HelloBeautiful.com and MadameNoir.com. She has also contributed to Glamour Magazine, People's StyleWatch, and was a featured columnist as well as on FoxNews.com, where she helped to build the independent entertainment and style site Fox411.com. A nationally recognized fashion celebrity and pop culture expert, her work has provided her opportunities to interview some of Hollywood's and Washington's biggest names like Tom Cruise to Maxine Waters, Denzel Washington to Marilyn Mosby, Jerry Lee to April Ryan, and more. And we are so excited to have her on the show today. Let's welcome Allison to the show. Hi.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to talk to you because you have so much to talk about.
I know. Listening to the bio, it always makes you feel like you're like, wow, I've been busy the last couple years.
You have. So let's start at the beginning of your career. So you have a master's degree in history. Now, I would assume someone like that would be, one, a history teacher or doing something like researching. So tell us, how did you get your start or your transition into digital media with a history degree?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely, when I was in school, thought I was going to be a professor of history for sure. My degree was in 20th century American history, so it was pretty modern, the content that I was studying. I was focusing on social movements of the 20th century, so like the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement and different things like that. But, you know, while I was in school, I wanted to, obviously Northwestern has one of the best journalism schools in the country, and I started becoming friends with some students who were in the master's program. And so I just started connecting with people and really just, you know, feeling like media was an opportunity to write about things that really mattered as they were happening. Like, I didn't want to just be, as much as I love history and I think it's so important and valuable, and historians are such an undervalued position because it really speaks to like it can really tell you about like, you know, what happened in the past. If we don't learn from it, we're never going to change as right now. But I really wanted to write about things that were happening right then at this moment, not just talking about the past. So I really had to start over. I left, I was in a PhD program, and I ended up coming back and just finishing at the master's level and deciding to pursue journalism after that. And I had to work, you know, as a local reporter for like the local town news. And I started out making like pennies and just building my way up from there, and then went to digital media around 2007-ish, and I've been in it ever since.
So you started working your way up in digital media, and one of the jobs you got a stint at foxnews.com. Now, would you say that was your big break in digital media?
Yeah, absolutely. Prior to that, I had worked my way up in digital, in local news media at that point. I had kind of, you know, been working in newspapers, and then I was working for a little while at New Jersey Network News, so I was learning how to do production there. But yeah, my big break was definitely going to foxnews.com, which was a really interesting position because the .com at that time was a little bit different than the rest of the channel. You know, it was just before Obama was elected president. And so it was a really obviously interesting time to be working at Fox. But it was, that's my political way of saying it.
Right.
But, you know, but, you know, the .com was all young journalists, and we were really kind of pushing the envelope, and there was a lot of room to grow because Fox had a .com for a long time, but they were really looking to transform it. And so it was a really exciting time to work in digital media and to really see the evolution and the like sort of blow up of digital news during that time. So it was a really great experience, a fun experience. And I was also working in, you know, entertainment. I started out in news, but then I switched over to entertainment about 6 months in. So, so it was just a really fun ride.
And so your time there, you never had to deal with the conservative politics. You were strictly entertainment.
Yeah. So, you know, the thing is, yes, of course, I worked for a very conservative news outlet. I think that they've evolved, even, you know, become, you know, sort of even more stringent in their views in the last couple of years. But for me, yes, I was working in, first of all, in .com, which, you know, I remember back at the time, there were these articles, whether this is true or not, I'm just going to throw it out there. There were these articles on like Gawker that would say that, you know, foxnews.com, you know, was sort of like operating separately from the rest of the overall Fox News, and that, you know, the people upstairs didn't know about us because they were like a little bit more, you know, I guess sort of middle of the line and not your like stereotype of what Fox is. So that was always funny. But yes, you know, working in entertainment, I was interviewing celebrities. I was, you know, talking about the latest movies that are coming out, obviously Fox 20th Century Fox and the Fox Studios and the FX and all those things. Like I was really dealing much more in that than I was in writing any political stories. Like there's nothing, you know, I think the most political thing I ever wrote at Fox was a piece about the White House cocktail party, you know, and like how the Obamas were ushering in a new level of glam, you know, and I'm sure some of the Fox readers were mad at me for that, but that was
right.
As political as I got in that role. And, you know, I will say this, too, that, you know, no matter what your politics are, and I have friends who are obviously on both sides of the aisle, you know, and if you follow me on Twitter or social media or you follow my writing, it's pretty clear what my politics are. But I still have a lot of friends who worked or still work at Fox, and it was I personally had a great experience. I know that, you know, I can't speak for everyone who worked there, but me, myself, I did not have the sort of experience that people immediately assume, you know, especially given the, you know, sort of troubles that Fox went through in the last couple of years.
Right. So you were working your way up with digital media. How did you discover and get involved with the Plus community? Because this is another spin you took that came out the blue.
Yeah. So that was really, you know, for me, I always loved fashion. No matter what I was doing, fashion was always a part of my life since I was a, you know, little girl. My mother is probably the most fashionable woman I know, and she, you know, my grandmothers both, owned, my one grandmother owned a beauty salon, the other one owned a bridal salon. So like fashion is in my blood. And, so I always loved it. And I've always been a plus size woman in my entire adult life. So, for me, it was like I just started talking about fashion. And when I started my fashion blog, it was still really early. Like it wasn't the explosion of bloggers yet that you see right now. I was, sort of in that first crop of people. And, I didn't have like any grandiose ideas. I just was sharing my fashions as a plus size girl. I was, dressing fashionably with really limited options at that time, which is crazy because it was, 10 years ago. You would think like, you wouldn't realize just how far we've come in 10 years. But back then we really were only talking about a handful of stores offering plus size options. So I got into it with that, and then I connected with a lot of people who were editors and who were, just people in the space who would say to me, oh, you should model, you should go for it. And, once I got a taste of modeling, I really fell in love with it. And I pursued it for a long time, but it just ended up not being something that I wanted to go for full time. But I'm very grateful to it in terms of the modeling because it really helped me connect with a lot of women that still follow me on social media. And it really gave me a lot of special experiences and just really great relationships. And I still am a blogger, and I still, I feel like I learned a lot about the industry from my years as a model. It just wasn't personally what I wanted to continue to pursue. But it was an adventure there for a couple of years as well, for sure.
Now, you were able to get some big clients as a plus-size model because you modeled for Ashley Stewart, Fashion to Figure, Monique C. So you mentioned just now you decided that was not something you wanted to pursue full-time. Now, was it because it was hard trying to navigate two careers at the same time, or was it just the plus modeling industry just put a bad taste in your mouth?
That's a great question. I first of all, had nothing but positive experiences with the major clients that I worked for. Ashley Stewart was my first huge client nationally, and that was such a special experience. They still hold such a special place in my heart. And then I was their head e-commerce stylist for a couple of years after I decided that I wanted to start leaving modeling. So they were always so supportive. Same thing with Fashion to Figure. Now Fashion to Figure is a big deal, but at the time, Michael, Michael, one of the founders of the brand, would always talk to me about how, we were both kind of like new and starting out at that time, and we were working together, and it was great. And Monique, I just think the world of course. But yeah, modeling is just, I think people have this idea of what it is versus what it actually is, It's not that it really left a bad taste in my mouth. I just personally felt that I had, as much as I loved modeling and it really introduced me to new things, and I was able to put my media career, or I put my media career a little bit on the back burner for a year or two while I really explored modeling and went for it. I think that I just started to feel like every time I was dealing with my agent, now this is like, I'm taking you back to like 2012, which is really not that long ago. But at that time, I was about a 16, 18. And I fluctuated, but usually I'd say in like the height of my modeling career, I was a 16, 18. Now I'm somebody who I just happen to be, very voluptuous. I photograph a little bit bigger. I'm a little on the shorter side. And so, like, I had a lot of odds stacked against me. Now you have models like Tess Holliday, who's, I think I don't know how tall she is, but she's, certainly a petite height model. And, she works all the time, and you have a lot of size diversity now. But back in the day when I was doing this, it was constantly about how I was too fat to be a plus-size model. Constantly I was reminded that my thighs were too big, I had too much cellulite, I was too short, and it was just a constant thing. And the agents that I would work with would, it would be conversations where they'd say things like, oh, let's send me some Polaroids of you in lingerie and we'll talk about the things that you have to work on. And I know that's part of the game, that they weren't doing anything like targeting me. They are just trying to make money and trying to do the business of the whole thing. But I started to feel like it was giving me a lot of issues and it wasn't making me happy. And I started to feel like I had so much more to say than just whether or not, my size 18 thighs or my size 16 thighs were a little too full that week. And, or like if I went on vacation or if I wasn't constantly trying to diet. And again, if people have followed me for years, everyone's seen me be everything from a size 22 to a size 14 and, everything in between. And, that to me was a lot of just me putting pressure on myself because I just felt like the industry wasn't ready to really they weren't really ready to, they were putting out this image that like they were size inclusive and they wanted size inclusivity, but they didn't. And, that was something that I really just decided it wasn't that important to me to sacrifice my sanity and, to sacrifice my brain and what I had to say, my fashion voice too, just to be in an ad. And as wonderful as that was and as blessed as I am, and I know I'm sure it sounds for some people who are just sitting at home dreaming, like, I just want to be on this cover and I just want to do this. Like, I'm sure it sounds self-righteous of me to say that, but I just say all that to say that there are so many other avenues to make a name for yourself than just trying to chase after being a model because it's something you think is going to make you feel better.
Now, it's interesting that you said you were getting criticized a lot by your agency about your looks because you did change your look in different ways. You lost a lot of weight. You straightened your hair. You lightened your hair. Now, were you trying to be more marketable for your modeling career or your digital media? Because that's still a part of entertainment, too. Or was it even for personal reasons? Because I know you got married, too. So what was the dramatic change?
Yeah. I think it was a mix of everything. I think it was, certainly, yes. I always had dark hair and, I had agents and clients kind of say like, oh, we like you a little bit better with lighter hair. And no one ever wanted my natural curly hair in terms of the shoots. Again, this is a little bit different of a time now. I see a lot more models with their natural hair modeling. But at that time, that was what I was being told, that they wanted to see me with straight hair, like Kardashian type hair and, to be more, I'm a Black woman, I'm biracial, but, that was constantly they wanted me to be the sort of racially ambiguous model. That was sort of where I was marketable. And I destroyed my hair. First of all, I had to cut, I had a big chop. I did the big chop last year, a year and a half ago, because I just destroyed my natural curl pattern. I had this really beautiful curly hair and I just was constantly dyeing it and lightening it and highlighting and straightening and all this stuff. And I destroyed my hair. And then, a lot of unhealthy diet choices over the years of just going up and down and up and down. So I think it was a mix. It was some of the agency pressure and feeling yes, I did get more of a response when I was a little bit more mainstream polished of what people would think was mainstream and polished, two words that I really hate, but that I heard so often in those years. And then also just probably a little bit of my own insecurities. You go down a path and you start getting caught up in that and you start feeling well, this is how people want to see me. And this is where this is what I have to do to make it. And, I just really kind of probably got a little caught up in that. And, all of that was really just difficult. And, it was actually my husband who was when I met you, you're becoming someone that's not you. This is, you're trying to be something, that is not you. And the thing is, I love to experiment with my look. It's just that I would never destroy my own hair the way I did in the past. I love to be healthy, but I'm not necessarily trying to be thin, and it's not that I was even trying to be thin, but I was trying to hit that 14 was that goal for me back then. And I just could never hit it. And I was constantly doing you name it, I did it, girl. The cabbage soup diet, I was keto, then I was this, and it just was I was trying to prove something and I was trying to fit myself a square peg in a round hole, around, I don't never know which one that is, but yeah. So, after a while I had to step back and just be are you doing this for you? Are you doing this to try to make it in something that is not even what you went to school for or what you're real passion was. I always say like modeling was kind of like a mistress that I feel like took me away from like my, spouse of, what my career was and the other things that I could do. And again, I'm so grateful to it. It was a really great experience, but I kind of lost myself there for a couple of years.
So you experimented with modeling, had some success, decided it wasn't for you, so you focused more on your professional career, and then boom, you became VP of women's lifestyle brands at Interactive One. Now tell us what you did there and what type of projects you worked on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started out as I came in as the managing editor for HelloBeautiful.com. And that was a really great experience. Just really, I had been, prior to that, I had been freelancing. I had been contributing to People's StyleWatch mag. I had been, working as an editor at various publications. And then when I decided I wanted to go back to work full time, I found that I was approached for this opportunity at Hello Beautiful. And then when I was there, it was just a really great run. I had a really great team, and I had a really great experience. And from there, I became the editorial director of Hello Beautiful. And then we merged, and iOne Digital purchased a number of sites, as part of a merger that included Gossip and Madame Noir and Hip Hop Wired. And so they created a women's division, and they asked me to run the women's division because I had success at Hello Beautiful. They asked me to run the women's division, which included Hello Beautiful and Madame Noir. And it was just really great. We covered women's lifestyle. It was, it's a Black women's lifestyle site. And so we talked about everything from the housewives to, Cyntoia Brown and the news that came out with that today, that she's been granted clemency, and Sandra Bland. And I was there during those really like critical years of all the issues that were going on with the police. And, so we really got to cover a lot of social justice issues. And I really was proud to bring news to those sites, but also, or build up on news. They were doing it a little bit. And then also just, cover the fun stuff. We talked about a lot of fashion. We talked about a lot of celebrities, and we talked about beauty, and just basically everything that women talk about was what we were covering on the site. And it was a terrific experience. And, again, I left that job in September, but I'm still very close with my teams and still remain super proud of them. And it was amazing.
So you left that job in September. So now you're working on a new chapter. Now, what is it?
Yes.
Tell us what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I've been working, ever since, because of my experience with retail and, again, the fashion modeling and all that, I've always been a retail and social media consultant for different brands. So, and I've also, obviously, because of my media experience, I've been able to do it with media brands as well. So I've been doing some consulting and just working with different companies on their social media content, copywriting for them, editing their content, working with them on newsletters, and just really going after and improving their customer base and their fan base. And so that's been really exciting. And then honestly, I've been working on, just other, projects that I, have wanted to do for a long time. I've been writing a lot and just looking for my next move. I wanted to take some time to really focus on myself and think about really strategically where I wanted to go next, what I wanted to do next. And, I've been lucky enough to be able to have my fashion blogging and my consulting, be able to help me do that.
And it looks like now that you have a little more time, you have reemerged in the Plus community, because I saw you doing a fashion blog for Lane Bryant, and you recently wrote an article for Plus Model Magazine that got a lot of people talking.
Yes, well, yeah, I mean, it definitely, one of the things that I was really committed to was really just going back to making sure that, I was not, sometimes I think when we have a full-time job and you have your blogging or whatever, your sort of like side hustles and your other passions are, sometimes you can sacrifice one for the other. And, so when I was working at full-time, I was really throwing myself into that. And so it was really important for me to be really consistent with my fashion blogging and really be working with so many of the brands that I've loved and admired for so many years and been a customer of, but haven't necessarily collaborated with them. So that was really great to do that with Lane Bryant, who, you know, I just love, and I love their team. And and the Plus Model Magazine piece was just really, again, me talking about issues that I think are affecting the plus community, but using my background as a journalist to really merge all of my sort of loves and do that the best way. And the Plus Model Mag piece was really focused on conversations that I've had with Madeline Jones, the editor of Plus Model Magazine, and my friends in the industry, just talking about how, you know, people are, whether or not we're seeing a little bit too much nudity as like the only way that we're sort of ever getting attention or going viral or even getting followers in our own personal lives, you know, it was exploring the question of like, are we using the nude plus size body as like that sort of commodity to do that? And, you know, it made some people really mad, of course. And it made some people really feel, and it made some people feel really great and really was thought provoking. And, you know, ultimately I believe that's what journalism is about. You're always going to have people mad at you. You're always going to have people, you know, who really it stops to make them say, well, hey, I never thought about that. And this was definitely something that got a lot of feedback. People had a lot of opinions on it.
So I have a lot of listeners that are trying to make a name for themselves in the plus industry, trying to get their brand off the ground. So what are some ways you would advise ladies in the plus community to build their brand and get press besides posting provocative pictures on Instagram?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's hard. I know that a lot of people are, you know, getting notoriety for posting, you know, provocative pictures. And I certainly don't knock anybody for that. You know, because I think that, you know, if you have the confidence to put it out there and you feel good with it, then you should do what you want to do. I think it's just, it becomes a problem when people feel like that's the only way that they'll get numbers, you know, or that's the only way that like the industry can get any attention. So I would say a couple of things. I would say really just focus on what makes you individual. Sometimes I think and that doesn't mean that like you have to wear brands that no one else is wearing, or you have to wear like crazy outfits that no one else is wearing, or you have to do things that, you know, no one else is doing. I think it's really just stopping to think about like, what do I have to say that is really unique, and what do I have to say, and, you know, that makes me special. I think sometimes, especially as women, we have a really hard time stepping back and saying like, what do I have to offer that makes me special? And every single person has something, and we need so many people to share their gifts and share what makes them special. So I think it's really like figuring that out. And it's also, you know, just networking. That's a big thing. You know, if you live in a place where there are no local events, put one on, because I guarantee you there are plus size women, you know, in your neighborhood. If you don't want to put on an event, you know, start a little networking group where, like, you know, once a month or once every 2 months, you just get together and you have dinner or you have whatever, and you start thinking about what you can do in your community. And just really, you know, I think just being honest. I think that's something people really want in social media right now. Everybody's perfect. Everybody's, you know, I've got this and I've got this designer label and I've got this, and, you know, but that's not most people's real life, you know? So I think really what people respond to is authenticity. So I think just being yourself, and even if you start out with just, you know, 40, 50 followers, like everybody started out with 40 or 50 followers, and really create that network, especially because nowadays brands are looking to work with what they call micro influencers, who are people who have, you know, 5,000 followers or less a lot, because if you have 2,000 really loyal followers, that's better than someone sometimes who has 1 million followers, but those followers are like men who just want to comment on their bodies and not actually like translate to sales. So I think it's really just like cultivating a true network and really just being loyal to that audience and being authentic to that audience.
So what is the ultimate goal with your career and your brand? Because we've talked about your career from beginning to end, and, you know, you've done different things. Well, you've excelled in almost everything that you've dipped your foot into. So what's the ultimate goal?
I mean, well, thank you for saying that. I mean, you know, it's very easy when it's your life to feel like I haven't done enough and I'm not doing this and I need to do more. And I think I've really been in that headspace. I was actually just talking with my followers about this. And just talking about my faith and spirituality and just being like, gosh, you know, I feel like I'm trying so hard and I'm ready for the next thing, but it hasn't come to me yet. So I think, you know, so thank you for saying that. And then first of all, and then second of all, for my career, what do I want to do? You know, to be honest with you, I want to just continue to first do projects that are meaningful and are impactful to people. I'm a storyteller by nature, whether I'm telling stories through, you know, my clothes and my fashion, or I'm actually telling other people's stories, or I'm exposing things that are happening in these industries that no one's really talking about. I always want to tell the truth, and I always want to, you know, do things that mean things to people in their community and in their everyday lives. So I hope that, you know, with my journalism and my fashion, I can continue to do that. I'm really, really, really trying to work on my book, you know, which is, you know, just a project that I've wanted to do for a long time, and, you know, really just writing in that avenue, which is something I haven't really pushed myself hard enough to do. And so I'm really focused 2019 on that. You know, I'd like to focus on my family. I'd like to be a mom, and I'd like to, you know, just kind of make sure that I can find a way to incorporate that into my life. I think that's really important for me at this point. And, you know, the rest is up to God. I'm not someone who's like, you know, in 12 years, I'm going to be this person. You know, I am leaving myself to God to direct my steps, and I'm always staying open to different opportunities. I'm always staying open to what's next for me and what my skills and my talents can allow me to do. But no matter what, it will always involve telling people stories and advocating for plus-size women, for women of color, for women in general, and underrepresented communities. I think that's something that's really important to me. And so that's what, you know, no matter what my work is doing, you'll always see me doing something with that.
And what are you available for? If somebody's listening and want to hire you, what areas are you freelancing in now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, certainly first and foremost, I'm always a writer and editor, and I've been a writing tutor and instructor. So I can, you know, if you're someone who is looking for, you know, writing and editing for your site and, you know, or, you know, contributors that you're looking for your magazines or for your, you know, outlets, I'm definitely open to that. I'm also open to editing people and helping them to grow, and even just working with them. Like if you want to write, but you feel like you don't really know how to, or you don't know how to express your voice, I've done some ghostwriting with people and helping them with that. So certainly that's first and foremost. Definitely always open to fashion collaborations. If you're a brand or a boutique, you know, hit me up. I don't believe in doing, you know, work for free, nor would I ask somebody to work for free for me. But, you know, I think it's really important to, you know, look at what, how we could collaborate. That also doesn't mean that I'm asking for thousands of dollars if you're like an indie boutique starting up, but I think it has to be that sort of business relationship. I think women have to treat each other like business owners and business people, and that's something I advocate for hard. And then, you know, I'm definitely just always open to like SEO and social media consulting. If somebody needs that, I can do fashion styling. The whole list of what I do is actually on my website, and people can just see, you know, all the different ways. And if you have a question and you have some like crazy thing that I didn't mention here, or, you know, something that you're thinking of, hit me up. You know, the worst I could, you know, at best, it's always great to hear what people are looking for and think about how I could evolve as a professional and, you know, give people those services.
Well, that's awesome. So tell us your official website and your social media handles.
Sure, yeah. So people can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Allie McGev. That's ALLIEMCGEV. And we have a lot of fun there. You know, I talk a lot about news on my Twitter, and it's a little bit more political. And we definitely talk more about fashion on my Instagram. So, you know, depending on your interest, or if you're interested in both, you can definitely feel free to follow me there. I'm on Facebook just by looking me up as Allison McGevna. Last name is McGevna. And my website is just AllisonMcGevna.com. And, and people can hit me there, and they have access to my email. And I tend to be really good at responding to messages and DMs and things, that are professional or people, seeking help or assistance and things like that. I really, truly love connecting with women about fashion and about life and about all the things
Keyword professional.
Keyword professional, yes. Please not email me talking about, can you send me a copy of your sweater, which men have asked for it, or can you send me a copy of this picture or your sweater or something like that, And I am also a happily married woman, so no, I'm not looking for dating and all that stuff. So yes, and sometimes you do have to say that. You're right. But yeah, I can generally, obviously, those people don't get answered. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. I had a fabulous time talking with you, and continued success on the next chapter in your life.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the chance to just kind of talk about my own journey. It's really exciting. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, keep in touch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
And thank you to our guest this evening, Allison McGevna. I've been your host, Shanice Lewis. Thank you for tuning in and supporting. Until next time, keep thriving in your curves and be blessed.
You've been listening to The Shanice Lewis Show. For more info about the show, visit ShaniceLewisShow.com.